Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're taking another look at Cartesi, which is a big request from my community members, patrons, everyone alike. Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and jump into that here, of course, and just to preface, if you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, just got to let you know that I have years of trading experience, however, and my goal is to help you become more of an effective trader. I have a trading community, link in the description below as well. If you're interested in checking that out, I actually send out signals for every single trade that I take, and I average about 85% success rate. So check that out again in your own time. But for right now, why don't we take a look here at Bitcoin first? And I always look at Bitcoin. People give me that question a lot. Why do you do that? Well, if you don't know what Bitcoin is doing, you're not really knowing much about anything, because Bitcoin essentially has the control of the market, for lack of better terms, and we need to always understand Bitcoin. If you can be a professional with Bitcoin, you can be a professional with darn near anything in crypto. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Bitcoin's the fundamental, understanding. Have to know that. All right. Anyways, enough about that. Just to clarify, right now we are well above support. We broke our all-time high. There's a strong chance that candlestick will close here today, so we are essentially in new all-time high territory. I know we probably already knew that, yeah, 66, 67,000, right? But until this candlestick closed above this resistance channel, then we couldn't actually consider it to be bullish, right? We couldn't consider it to be on the road to 100,000, as a lot of people are saying. Just keep that in mind. That is essentially what's going on here. I still feel like we're due for a correction because it's been almost a month since we've had any type of retracement. And what I mean by that is, the price just, yes, it retraces a little bit. We saw that right here, but it just held at support and kept going, right? So if this holds at support and keeps going, great. I think that'd be awesome, but I still feel like we're due, because if we take a look at TD sequential here, we are well into overtime right now, and I feel like we're going to see something happen soon. We're seeing a little bit of correction here today, which is nice, but it's not much, and I think we're going to see something larger, perhaps going into the weekend. Fridays are typically red days, so just be aware of that. Anyways, I hope Bitcoin just continues to progress upwards, but for now, that is essentially the state of the nation in regards to Bitcoin. Now, taking a look here at Cartesi, I can see why I got a lot of requests here. It is pumping fairly hard today, of course, in the last 24 hours. But look at that, it's pretty standard. It has a history of doing this too, I've noticed. It has a history of jumping up 100%, right? And then it cuts down almost exactly halfway. So with the point being, price being where it's at right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the price just continue to stay right where it's at, consolidate and go sideways for some time. Because again, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often does too, right? So let's keep this in mind here. It looks like we did break above this resistance level. We still have 30 minutes left in this trading cycle, but I would say that this is going to probably be a good strong support or resistance level, likely a support just based on the fact that it's just kind of hovering around above that zone. But all in all, good stuff here. I like this. I also see that we have kind of an ascending pattern that just broke through as well. Let's take a look at the RSI, up over 70, pretty standard for this type of increase. What kind of increase did we see here today? We saw about 41, 42%. That's pretty significant for one day of trading, in my opinion. Usually when you see a percent over 20, then there's going to be some type of correction retracement, right? The really good bull runs, and you'll hear me say this a lot, are the ones that kind of give you a staircase pattern. So last few days have been really good. It's kind of been doing this up over type of thing. But with this massive increase, we're going to see that come down and retrace, probably consolidate right around that halfway point, which is typically right at the same point in which you'll find Fibonacci retracement. That halfway, 50% is a pretty common average place for a coin once it's increased and had to decrease essentially within that same time frame. So again, anything over 20%, I would say in a 24-hour period, we can expect some kind of correction. All right, so looking pretty good here for Ctsi. Let's take a quick look at the moving averages. Obviously, they're well below, so nothing to really worry about there. No major resistances past this point. Obviously, keep in mind we do have some. The next major resistance could be this most recent high. That could very well be a resistance level for us. There's also a few that we could kind of pick out of a hat here as well. There was a point right here that we saw the price get stopped out, but we're going to work within the channel that we're at right now. We can maybe take a look at Fibonacci retracement later and kind of identify that, but I would say for right now we should expect to see the price consolidate closer to about 88 cents, right in that range there. Okay. Now let's look at the 4-hour chart, see what's going on. We're above both moving averages. There you can see where that support level has been tested and it's still holding above. RSI is coming back down under 70, which is good. We like to see it calm down there. We saw a really strong strong MACD convergence here at 1300 yesterday. So right here, this guy was telling us and we had a shift in momentum. The bears were essentially losing control. The volume was speaking more bullishly, and the price continued to increase from there. So had you got in at that entry point or that approximate number, then you would be up right now 20%, but possibly about 43% from the get-go, right? So again, when you're looking at any type of chart, the 4-hour MACD convergence is probably the most effective time frame. In my personal opinion, that time frame works the greatest for that indicator. And the reason why is because it really just tells us that we have this shift in momentum, right? So you see down here, the bears are trying to sell off the price, right? As soon as that shift occurs, this is when the convergence happens, when the 12 intersects with the 26 in upward fashion, then you get this bullish momentum that happens. And it can sometimes be very volatile. The fact that Bitcoin has been performing very well today is likely the reason why that happened. Okay, so keep in mind that did push that up as well, because a lot of this movement here is based on the fact that Bitcoin's been pushing hard and fast recently, at least better than it usually does. So that's a really good sign here for Cartesi. Just keep in mind we're probably going to see some kind of sell-off retracement, perhaps in the near future if Bitcoin sells off too. That's what we're experiencing right here. This really high point was right where Bitcoin is probably right touching at 67,000, and it came down to retrace. So far, so good. So just keep that in mind. In fact, let's go ahead and mark some numbers here really quick, kind of see where we're at. And you can see again that halfway point, that 0.5, lines up really well with the previous high, or at least the previous one-day chart closing at that point, right? Because again, I marked this on the one-day chart just so you know. I didn't just pull that out of a hat. I put the line right above here, these three resistance levels. And coincidentally, Fibonacci is pretty much telling us right at that same exact point we have a support and or resistance level. Okay, so there's that. We'll go ahead and draw this as well, just in case we do lose that support. Going to come down to the 0.38, and we're looking at about 84 cents. So between 84 and 88 cents, I expect the price to kind of consolidate. There's a nice little support channel there. But in all likelihood, again, granted, Bitcoin just goes a whole lot of sideways, we're going to see Cartesi probably bounce and continue to progress upwards for another leg up within a couple of days. But we have to have some type of consolidation period here, because without it, ultimately, we are going to be in a position where we're going to be kind of, I wouldn't say screwed, but with Bitcoin, tumbles, then this is going to as well, just based on the simple fact that it's performed very similar to Bitcoin in the past. That's what I've noticed, at least in my experience. Anyways, just want to throw that out there. Let's go ahead and move on to the Ichimoku cloud. Let's go ahead and see. This is something I love to show because it really just has a direct correlation with the price action. In other words, when I marked the 4-hour chart convergence on the MACD, right? When we're shifted from bearish to bullish. Take a look here. I marked that right here. So in this 4-hour time frame, you can see the price broke above the cloud as well. So when I look at the MACD convergence and I have a convergence on the MACD, I double check the 1-hour chart for the Ichimoku cloud and see if that is essentially if I have that confirmation, right? And this is giving us full on confirmation. In other words, the price broke above right at the exact same time. And that's kind of like a double rainbow. I know you've heard me say that a lot if you've watched my videos. And it's just one of those things, two awesome things happening at the same time. You can't help but to just appreciate it. So that kind of drove the price up here. And essentially that's, kind of reaffirmed the fact that we are in the same, on the right track. And keep this in mind too, the Ichimoku cloud, if you're new to it, above the cloud, considered a buy signal. When it's below, it's considered a sell signal, right? So you see here, it kind of up and down. There's a state of consolidation there's not a lot of reliable feedback we get there, but we get that MACD convergence on the 4-hour chart. Price goes up here as well. That's a perfect time to jump in. So had I had my alert set up, I would have just said, it'd be something like this here, where you just go ahead and do, you click Ichimoku cloud, you do lead 1 or lead 2, depending on which one you're at, and then you just go ahead and hit create. And what it does, anytime it crosses this plane, it'll notify you, and then you can kind of take a closer look and see, okay, does that match my MACD convergence signals? Yes. If you get 2 yeses, good to go. Take entry, collect your profit, not shortly after. Anyways, that's kind of something I have set up for my trading style, and that leads to my success rate as well. I'm not bashful to be able to admit that I hover about 80-85% success rate. And these are all signals that I send to my community members too. So just bear that in mind if you're considering, a leg up in the industry, you want to follow along with somebody that's a little bit more successful, feel free to check that out. I share every trade that I take and actually send out signals through a trading bot where you just one-click follow and it just automates the whole process. Super cool experience. But regardless, I want you to check that out in your own time. To summarize here, let's check out one last thing at TD Sequential. I think we got to reset. I just like to note this here as well too, because with TD Sequential, if you're not familiar with that, it really just helps us understand market exhaustion. So we can see here, we went from a 1 to a 9. That 9 should have reset and went sideways. We should have seen a state of consolidation, but instead the price ramped up so hard and kept pushing up really fast that we are left in this extreme overtime, right? So this doesn't happen too often, but that goes to show that with this significant amount of volume, it pushed things kind of into this second phase, so to speak, and it kept pushing up. Now, I like to show that just because this is an example of situations that happen more so in cryptocurrency than any other trading platforms. Traditional stocks, ETFs, futures, I've traded them all over the years, and I can tell you that they have the most volatility, which is fantastic. And Cartesi is one of those ones that just kind of takes off. So the great thing about Cartesi is that it does take off, but the problem is the fact that you miss out on the top unless you're paying attention to it all day. So that's another reason why I like trading bots. I never used to have to, like to promote this, but I can tell you what, 3 commas, Cornix, they're all really good in being able to have multiple profit targets. So anytime I set a trade, I set up 3 profit targets to ensure that I take profits when I'm not there. I mean, you can still do the same thing with a stop loss or a sell target. Essentially, there's different, or sell limit for that matter. There's a lot of things you can do, don't get me wrong, but these large major exchanges, they don't have like trailing stop losses where your stop loss adjusts as you take profit, where these trading bots have that, and it makes it much more functional. So just keep that in mind, something to pay attention to if you want to kind of up your game. Again, those are all things I have built into my training community. Check that out, but highly recommend you consider something like that, because Cartesi specifically has peaks, right? If you look at the history, almost every single one of these have large wicks. In other words, there's a pump followed by a retracement of 50% or greater every single time. So had you had that set up, just say you were set up at, and you did your Fibonacci retracement, you went up to just say 1 or 1.2, you would have been able to take profits much higher instead of kind of been at this point where, oh, darn it, I missed out, right? Anyways, still take profit while you still can. If you're in the green right now, by all means, take that profit, because there's a good chance we might see a retracement, I feel, from Bitcoin and therefore Cartesi as well. But cool thing is here, one last thing to kind of wrap up before I give you my prediction is the fact that we have the price kind of consolidating right here at this support level. So right around basically 80, was it 88 cents? Yeah, 88 cents. We're looking at a decent support. If we lose that, it'll be down in between 84 and 88 cents. So just keep that in mind. So big picture, my recommendation for Cartesi, again, is to use profit targets. Obviously, make sure you set those. And for the most part, I would speculate that we will probably see this break its all-time high, but we got to worry about, first of all, the most recent high here, right? So this most recent high is a pretty big one. Well, I'd say $1.26. So what you should probably do is, if you're going to set a profit target, set a target like $1.25, right? So just below that. The best thing to do to be able to set targets is to set your target just under the more consistent or significant resistance level. Okay, so I'd say within the next 2 weeks we will see $1.25 broken. I would say within the next month or two, by year end, we'll likely be seeing this getting tested here, if not broken as well, which is what, about $1.72 as a close approximate. Okay, so that is kind of what we're looking for. Hopefully we find benefit. If you did, please like and subscribe, and obviously check out my Patreon community. I thank you so much for joining me here today. Really appreciate your request as well. To my community members, we'll see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.